Welcome into the Get in the Hole podcast. Steve McAvoy and Mavallia. We're here with you on an awesome Monday, a great day in the world of golf. We're heading to the Rbc Canadian Open. John, this is the last time this course was played. Well, the course was played back in 2010. The event hasn't happened since 2019 thanks to COVID. Obviously, the Canadians have been a little bit skeptical of the way the Americans have handled the COVID pandemic, as per most of the world. So, ironically enough, Rory McIlroy won this event in 2019. To think about it, he's the defending champion, and the last time he was defending this title, Gary Woodland won a U.S. Open, which is kind of weird to think about. So we'll be talking a lot about the Rbc Canadian Open in a little bit, but first we have to tell you all about our sponsors at Tomahawk Shades, the #1 premier small eye batch wear brand in the industry. Wow, that was a mosh posh of words. Go and check them out, tomahawkshades.com. Use code USP, USP at Jeez, I cannot speak today. Use code USP at checkout for 25% off your next order and stay styling and profiling from the first tee to the 18th green. Thank you for joining us wherever you are, or however you're listening, wherever you are. Thank you for hopping in with us. You can follow us on Twitter at GetInTheHolePod, as well as Instagram at Facebook.com/GetInTheHole, and find our content all over the Underground, to Twitter and Instagram at UndergroundPHI, Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI, Twitch.tv/UndergroundSportsPHI, and all over the streaming verse, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to go and subscribe to that, as well as our YouTube channel. Just search Underground Sports Philadelphia, and you can find everything from our content to soccer to lacrosse to streaming, whatever you're looking for. We have it all there on Underground Sports Philadelphia. Once again, Steve and John joining you here every week on the PGA Tour to bring you the nonstop action of the Professional Golf Association, and now an offshoot league, which we're going to talk about in about 30 seconds. But of course, you got to follow us too for our fun content on basically anything. It's mostly me chatting about the Mets and complaining, and John putting out betting markets and stuff of the like. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen McAvoy _ and John at I Make Pars. Before we go any further, John, I want to bring you into the conversation, introduce you to the folks. How are you doing? How was your round of golf earlier?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, today was one of my few days off, so I took advantage of it. I got some good rest. Got up early, ate some breakfast, rested again. Then I went and hit balls. I saw that the tee sheet at the golf club where I work at wasn't looking too packed, so I went and I got 18 in. I played decent. I shot a 42 on the front and then a 39 on the back. Impressive. All around score of an 81 for the day. I played really well. Only thing that gave me an issue was the driver. I couldn't really find consistency with it. I had a couple good drive, a couple nukes, a couple bombs out there. But other than that, I was really having to gain some strokes with my irons and my putting. But every other part of my game outside of the driver was pretty lights out. So I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I actually went to Heartland today after work. I said I had to unwind. I haven't hit balls in about a week and a half, and so I went out to Heartland, played the par 3. I shot a 31, which is very impressive for me, considering I was all over the golf course today. I was not dialing in my irons whatsoever, but the putter's been on fire. I had like 7 1-putts. It was wild.
7 1-putts.
Yeah, dude, I was putting on a display like I was Cameron Smith. It was wild. It was it was actually like. It was that climax moment where you're like, all right, now I'm so dialed in one spot, and then evidently I'll probably want to go into the range to practice driver, and I'll just be absolutely hogwash. So my game's never consistent enough to actually be able to be in full form and to shoot an 81. I'm probably gonna. I think the goal is by the end of the summer to be able to consistently break 90. I think that's kind of where I'm currently at. I think my 6 scores this year were 85, 86. 89, 91, and 93. So I'm pretty good. I'm right around that hovering point.
That's a good goal. I think you could go a little lower than that, but I think that's. I agree. I think maybe that's a good goal for you. I think that's.
If I could break 90 and apex around 87, 88, I think I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. Consistently, actually, yeah, you're right. That is a very good goal for you. I myself am shooting for breaking 80 consistently, which I think I could do that by the end of the summer.
All right, Mr. Future PGA Tour Pro over here. So while you and I have our goals, there is one other major goal that's currently happening this week. And actually it starts off this week, and it's where we start our major story here. There's a new golf league in town. People have known about it since probably October. They claimed they were going to start around the Genesis in February. Didn't happen. They had a falling out with Phil Mickelson, who's now joining the tour as of this morning, and I'll read a statement in a minute. The 13th ranked player in the world, who's also a Masters champion, and for a good time held the lowest strokes total in a PGA event record. Also a multi-time winner on tour. Dustin Johnson is joining the said tour, along with guys like Louis Oosthuizen and Sergio Garcia, Ian Poulter, Lee Westwood, and then a bunch of other smaller names that you probably don't really know about. But this is the LIV Golf League, or as they call it, the LIV Golf League Louder. It's golf, but louder. That was the ad that I saw this morning waking up. I saw some ridiculously like over the top, looked like a video game intro advertisement on my Facebook, which kind of freaks me out that LIV is trying to get into my own head as both a consumer and a producer of sports content. But let's start there. Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson have both confirmed they will in fact join the LIV Golf League, Greg Norman's offshoot league backed by Soviet money. And I want to start with Phil Mickelson's statement here, as he said, I found it really interesting, and I want to get your opinion on the way he framed part of this. He said, first and foremost, I want to again apologize to the many people I offended and hurt with my comments a few months ago. I have made mistakes in my career and some of the things I have said and done. Taking time away and self-reflecting has been very humbling. I needed to start prioritizing the people that I love and love the most, and work on becoming a better version of myself. I have spent time with Amy, his wife, and loved ones. I've been engaged and intentional. It continued therapy and feel healthy and much more at peace. I realize I still have a long way to go, but I'm embracing the work ahead. I'm ready to come back and play the game that I love. After 32 years, this new path is a fresh start, and one that is exciting to me at the stage of my career, and it's clearly transformative, not just for myself, but ideally the game and my peers. Essentially, what he said, and the way I kind of took it, and I want to get your opinion here, he almost didn't even apologize to those who he actually should have apologized to. I think he apologized to those who he's now joining up with, meaning the Saudi Arabians who backed this league, when he had said, oh yeah, like they kill our journalists and they do horrible things and they hate gay people and women and the like. Almost seems like he was apologizing directly to the people who now he's going to be taking money from, rather than the actual people who are fans of him. But as there's some like high-speed chase going on outside of my house. Oh my God. All right, I heard like 14 fire engines. So what's your opinion here on what Phil had to say about coming out as of today, literally Monday, as we're recording this morning, said he will join the LIV Golf League for allegedly, according to some folks in the golf world, a $200 million contract?
I'm happy for him. I think the one strange thing about that quote is, why did it take like public backlash over a quote you had a couple of months ago, which I didn't even think I know you thought it was bad. I know when we had Max on the show, he didn't like the quote very much. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was a big overreaction. But why did it take that for you to do all of this self-reflecting and therapy and working on your life and your personal relationships with people? Why did it take that for you to work on yourself? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. As much as I have defended Phil, or I really don't think I've defended him that much, but as much as I've kind of seen his side of things more so than I've seen the opposite side. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The rest of it though it's pretty standard for a statement. Definitely big news for him joining the league. That's huge for the league, huge for him. I still think DJ is the bigger fish. I don't know who got more money. I would assume Phil got more. What's that?
Phil by a lot.
I would assume Phil got more money, but I still think DJ is the bigger fish for the Saudi Golf League. It's gonna be interesting. It definitely moves the needle. I don't care what anyone says. Maybe Phil has some haters out there now, as opposed to around this time last year when just about every single golf fan had him towards the top of their list of favorite players. He might not be that many people's favorite player anymore. But it's good news for him for sure. Bad news for the PGA Tour. They think they own the sport of golf, so they can go F off. And yeah, we'll see what the LIV Golf League is all about. And hopefully they can move past some of the humanitarian crimes that they have committed in the past.
You know, I'm very on the fence right now because I don't really know what to expect. You've heard about the rules and the regulations and what their goal is, or at least how Greg Norman views it, with team events, 54-hole events, an international series rather than sticking to America or as like the DP World Tour does in Europe and Asia. But I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I don't know whether or not this is like the ultimate enemy of the state kind of thing, where we should be like, oh, we hate the LIV Golf League just because the PGA is the only thing around. Because like you look at other sports leagues and like baseball, they have minor league affiliates, so there is other things other than MLB baseball. And obviously, yeah, there's the Corn Ferry Tour, but it's still international the way they introduce themselves. The NFL is really only the NFL. Every offshoot has kind of failed. The American Alliance of Football, the XFL has failed. The USFL, I think, is kind of sort of in full swing. I only really ever hear about betting it rather than actual coverage of it. So there is some sort of an offshoot there. And then the NBA kind of has the G League, but again, it's all kind of relative to them if it isn't like FIBA, which is the European side. So this is kind of the offshoot where I don't know if it's like the we should hate them because it's backed by Saudi money, or we should embrace it because it's a new way of looking at golf. And I remember we talked about this when I can't remember what tournament it was, but it was an alternate event. I think it might have actually been the Barbasol Championship or somewhere around then, where it was a Stableford style scoring system. And I was like, all right, should we have more events like this? And I remember us specifically talking about it, and I thought it would be a good idea. Have more scoring that it isn't just traditional stroke play. Have more team events. There's currently 2. There's a Zurich Classic and the QBE shootout, which kind of happens towards that like lull period in December. So there's that. Maybe you want to do more events where you are having that Stableford style where you get a point for a par, a point for a birdie, point for an eagle, stuff like that, rather than just stroke play, because it seems kind of repetitive and it's a little boring at times. Obviously, we talked about it in the last 4 weeks. The last 3 weeks, roughly, I've kind of been a snoozer outside of the PGA in terms of actual consumption of the sport, because after a while, you kind of get tired of just watching the same old event. It's just at a different place every week. So maybe it is nice what LIV is doing. And obviously, I do agree with you. I think DJ is the bigger fish here. I think even Taylor Gooch might be a bigger fish than Phil. Obviously, Phil's really there as the placeholder. He's kind of the guy who, all right, everyone knows who Phil Mickelson is. Everyone who's 65 years old. Obviously, golf is a more older-centric sport in terms of the fan base, probably. It's gotten younger over the years, but people still know Phil like they know Tiger and like they know Jack, not necessarily as they know DJ and Kevin Na and Sergio. So it's a little different. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of on the fence here. I think Phil's statement was a little BS, was a little bullish on his end in terms of not necessarily apologizing to the right people, but that's kind of a conversation for a different day in terms of looking at exactly what his intentions are. Because obviously he spent 3 months in exile here on the tour. Whether or not it was to his own admission or not, he still was away. He still tried to qualify for the U.S. Open. He didn't play the PGA for a certain reason. We still don't know why. So he was away for a certain reason, and we're still trying to figure that out. But we'll kind of go from there. Speaking of the LIV Golf League, kind of continuing on this whole story here, I want to take a look at those who are going to be involved in the LIV field. Obviously, we know the known quote-unquote deserters, I guess you could say, or as basically the way I put it in an article that you guys will find on undergroundsports.com. I called them basically the known deserters. It was the guys we knew from the jump that were going to be going to the tour. Louis Oosthuizen was linked, Ian Poulter, Lee Westwood, Sergio Garcia, Kevin Na. There was also reports of Jason Kokrak and Bubba Watson. Both of them did not come to fruition. They are both still very much on tour. And then, of course, Dustin Johnson was kind of the surprise, I guess you could say. He was linked to it. So was Bryson. But at the same time, DJ in February had said, I'm committed to the PGA Tour where the best players in the world are. I'll be there. and now all of a sudden, basically, does a full heel turn 180, like it's the WWE, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, let's go to London, and said it was the best decision for him and his family. Which obviously, when someone's waving a couple of shiny objects, including $140 million in your face, it's pretty advantageous of you and Paulina to want to go with your kids and go travel the world and enjoy yourselves for a shorter period of time in terms of the schedule. But that's kind of what it is. So John, I want to get your take here. Who are some of the bigger names that you're interested in, or even some of the smaller names that most people don't really know about that you're looking forward to? If we even do wind up watching LIV Golf, however it's going to be streamed, and notably on YouTube. But what are you excited for as far as people in the field?
Like we were talking about before, really DJ is the only one. I think I'd be slightly excited for Phil. DJ is probably the only one for me right now. Sure, it's nice to see Taylor Gooch, Kevin Na, Sergio, those guys. It'll be fun to see them go out there and compete and have a chance to win where maybe they wouldn't have a chance to win on the PGA Tour week after week, especially guys like Na and Sergio who are a little bit on the other side of their career and potentially a little past their primes. They'll definitely have a shot to have some success and get paid handsomely for their talents. So I got no problem with that. I know on the topic of formats and stuff like that, I was definitely, when we had that conversation, I was definitely against more formats that weren't straight up stroke play, especially not for a major or anything like that. But like just in general for other PGA Tour events to be non-stroke play 72-hole events, I was definitely against that. Not sure what to expect from the LIV Golf League, but I think because it's a little newer and because they don't have anything set up that's been in place for years and years and years, I'm a little bit more open to seeing new formats and stuff like that. I think it could potentially be nice to have some teams forming. That idea intrigues me, but 72-hole stroke play, I think is what I like to watch the most. But if you can find a way to make the product on TV more entertaining, go for it.
So there are a couple of names that I thought really kind of stood out, and I wrote an article about this. Again, you'll be seeing it at some point. There's a lot of guys in this field who most people kind of might not necessarily recognize immediately on paper, but once I kind of go into a little more detail, you'll be like, oh, okay, like I've seen them before. Former world number one Martin Kamer is joining the LIV Golf League. Matt Jones, the Australian, you might have seen him at Kapalua. He alongside Cameron Smith and John Rahm set the lowest stroke record in a single event. Obviously, all of them went like 34 under, with Smith taking home the win at Kapalua. Some guys inside of the top 100: Bernd Wiesberger of Austria, Hudson Swafford. You saw him; he won the Amex a few months ago. Charles Schwartzel, the South American, Graham McDowell, Richard Bland. He became a household favorite as one of the older players on tour in his rookie year this year. And obviously, Brooks Koepka's brother Chase will be joining the LIV Golf League as well. There's a couple of smaller names, much smaller names that I'm very interested in as well. There are 3 college or amateur champions. There's Peter Uihlein, who was used to be the former number 1 amateur. The 2019 amateur champion Andy Ogletree. You've seen him a couple times at Augusta. The 2021 amateur champ James Pio. He's currently an amateur. He's playing on the Corn Ferry Tour or vying for one. He's taking a big shot in the dark here, joining up with this league without even getting a tour status. And last year's 2021 NCAA Division I champion Turk Pettit from Clemson will also be joining the tour. There's one guy though that I'm really fascinated by. And I tweeted about him months ago. Do you remember the Saudi International Tournament that they played? I want to say in like January. There was one kid who was beating out like Tony Finau in the field that week. He had made the cut. Finau didn't. And the kid was like 15 years old.
I believe I remember us talking about this. I do.
Yeah. So there's this kid. His name's Ratchanan Chantananawa. He's Taiwanese. He's an amateur. And he's the youngest player to ever win an official world golf ranking event at 15 years old. He is actually incredible. And for a 15-year-old that I can confidently say will probably beat me by about 12 strokes is impressive. Yeah, he's 15. We don't know how long LIV is going to stick around for, but to have a building block possibly like that as somebody who can, you never know, you might be seeing a 15-year-old match up with Dustin Johnson one day on a Saturday or Sunday. That'd be sick. So I think that's pretty cool to kind of see what is to come. Those are some of the names that I'm kind of interested in. Largely the amateurs and the amateur champions that have come in years past. A lot of them have played at Augusta, and you've seen them in majors where they gathered sponsor exemptions. So they'll certainly be interesting to see what we have. My final kind of thought here about the LIV Golf League, and I want to ask you this. Do you think we should start kind of covering this? I feel like it's a...
we already are. We have been.
Well, no. I mean, like, should we cover it as heavily as we already cover the PGA in terms of, like, let's go over every single event and do a course chatter and all these different things. We're not going to this week, despite it being the inaugural event at the Centurion Club in London, teeing off on the 9th. But I feel like in weeks to come, I feel like it might certainly behoove us to have some kind of convo about it.
Yeah, we definitely should. We will. I have no doubt in my mind that we will. Yeah.
Well, while we do wind up talking a lot, while we will wind up talking a lot about it, we still have to talk about the PGA Tour and what happened this week at Jack's Place at the Memorial. Billy Horschel took home the win on Sunday. A wild Saturday, well, really a whole wild weekend for him. Was almost at the cut line come Saturday. Had a tremendous 7 under par day on Saturday to come back, and on Sunday managed to take home the big win at Jack's Place. John, do you have any takeaways here from the past weekend, guys who stood out? Any sort of reaction that you have to what happened at the Memorial this weekend?
Guys that stood out, Billy Horschel obviously was the guy who nobody in their right mind could have seen that dude winning the Memorial Tournament this weekend. But yeah, there's a couple other guys. Pat Reed, another really solid finish for him. Potentially building on something as the stretch as it comes down to the stretch and we get to the end of the PGA Tour season, where we have FedEx Cup points on the line and a couple of majors left as well. Other than that, there were a couple other guys that caught my eye, but those are the two that really just stood out to me.
Yeah, there was a small handful. I think one of them, the biggest one probably, was Cameron Young to me, who on Sunday had a complete meltdown and essentially tore up our betting cards. We did really well this week. We'll talk more about it at the top of the hour for beer money. But Cameron Young had an awful Sunday, fell off the horse big time. Aaron Wise had an incredible week. He finished solo second at 9 under par. Joaquin Niemann continues to put it on. He's been incredible the whole year. So is Max Homa, a top 5 for him. Denny McCarthy has had a really good string of things lately. I didn't really notice it as I was going into prep for last week, but 3 straight top 20s for him dating back to 2 months ago. And I mean, there's always the typical players that we always see. John Rahm finishing top 10. Shoulda, woulda, coulda been in the conversation on Sunday had it not been for some early week blunders where he had a couple of really bad double bogeys in the first and second round. Patrick Cantlay, of course, puts on his typical show, finished 7 under for top 3, his 4th top 10 finish, and his 3rd top 5 in 5 years at this golf course. Davis Riley, like you and I had both said, someone who's been coming up the ranks, the Alabama product, basically JT number 2 in the way he plays his game. He finished tied for 13th, so a great week from him on that end. Jack's Place just simply played so well this week, and I love the way it turned out. The first 2 days was difficult. There was a little bit of rain, so the morning tee times were a little bit easier to control. But as the days got on, the course got really, really harder. It got much harder. And I remember that they're saying at the cut line, it was about, I think, 2 or 3 over par. And the head groundskeeper at Jack's Place said it will be so much significantly harder on Saturday and Sunday. And it most certainly was. And the fact that Billy Horschel was able to come out and dominate the way he did on Saturday and Sunday, move his way all the way up the leaderboard and take home the big win was very impressive on his end. Shifting away, though, from the Memorial, there was another major event that happened this week. Not major in terms of the PGA, but major for the women's PGA Tour. The U.S. Women's Open happened this past weekend at Pine Needles. Min Ji Lee, sister of Min Woo Lee, took home the big win. Came back from 6 strokes down on Saturday and Sunday, worked her way all the way up to the top of the leaderboard, and took home the big win for Minjee Lee. A little funny story. Minwoo called her during the trophy ceremony, and there was a very awkward conversation of like, "Yay!" Like I'm like currently like talking into reporters. So it was a fun little moment there. John, final topic here before we get rolling. Get a little look at the official World Golf rankings and the FedEx Cup standings. Words just come in. Rickie Fowler finished his U.S. qualifying today. For those of you who don't know, today was Bloody Monday. It's the longest Monday on the PGA Tour calendar. It was the final day for qualifying of the U.S. Open. 36 holes. For a lot of guys, it's like an eternity. And Rickie Fowler on the 18th was a 4-foot putt away from qualifying as an alternate, and he lipped it out. Happened about 25 minutes ago. So Rickie Fowler will not be playing in the U.S. Open. Thoughts?
It's tough.
That sucks, man. Rickie Fowler has been on such a downturn. I feel so bad for the guy.
I mean, he played well today, obviously.
Well, it was very interesting. I was talking about it. He doubled the ninth hole, which he started on the back nine in round one. So he came in at 2 over par. He was originally going to be even with the card. Matthias Schwab was in the lead, I think, at like 4 under. And Rickie posted a very impressive 4 under. He had 3 straight birdies for 3 of his last 4 holes to get all the way up to the top 5. But of course, that lip out cost him big time. So he will miss out on yet another U.S. Open. I believe this is the 5th major that he's missing out on in a row. He hasn't played in back-to-back Masters tournaments, PGA or U.S. Open in the last few years. So very unfortunate for Rickie. But taking his spot are, as I read here, Ryan Gerard, Sean Jacklin, Keith Green, and amateur Fred Biondi of Brazil, one of the very few Brazilians that'll be in the field at the U.S. Open at the Brookline Country Club. Final little wrap up here on looking at the official World Golf Rankings following this week, seeing how things kind of shook up. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler and Jon Rahm will cement themselves very high up on the leaderboard. Patrick Cantlay jumps over Cameron Smith, who Cam had a really good week at Memorial. Patrick Cantlay was just a little bit better. Cantlay moves back into the 3rd spot in the official World Golf Rankings, while Smith falls down to number 4. Billy with the win goes from 13th to 11th, just outside of the top 10 there. So your top 10 going into this week at the RBC Canada Open: Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm, Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Smith, Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland, defending champion Rory McIlroy, Sam Burns following his big win a couple weeks ago, and Jordan Spieth round out your top 10 in the official World Golf Rankings. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to give you all the information, the know-how, what you need to know going into the RBC Canada Open at St. George's Club in Toronto. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. You are listening and watching Get in the Hole on the Underground. Welcome back in. It's Get in the Hole. Steve and John here, as per usual, from the Underground. John, the RBC Canada Open this week obviously hasn't been back since 2019, since Rory won it back in 2019. We don't usually get a lot of opportunities to talk about our Canadian brethren from the north. There is a good swing of events in the late months and very early on in the PGA Tour year. We can go down to Mexico. We go to Aruba. We go to Bermuda. We go to Central America. But this is the one time of year that we can actually go and appreciate our northern brethren in Canada. So I want to talk a little bit before we really kind of get into the minutia here. One thing about Canada, or one person, one thing, whatever it is, that Canada has given us that you are most thankful for.
I guess Drake.
I kind of forgot Drake was from Canada.
Yeah, bro. I guess just Drake. I'm trying to think.
I'm inclined to say Tim Hortons because it's really good coffee. They actually have really good donuts.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some Canadian ice hockey players now as well. That would probably be Gretzky. Yeah.
I mean, most of them are Canadian. Well, at least most of the very good ones.
Yeah.
It's Canadian or Eastern European, mostly Russian. So like, it's kind of pick your poison.
A lot more Americans nowadays, though.
Sidney Crosby? No, yeah.
I don't think is Crosby Canadian.
Yeah.
No.
Sidney Crosby Canadian.
No, he's not a gift to mankind like we were.
Well, we don't like him, but he's really good. Connor McDavid.
McDavid for sure.
He's insane.
McDavid for sure.
The problem is like, Austin Matthews, or he's
American,
is he?
I think he's American. I think.
I don't know. He playing for the Leafs. He kind of screwed me up there. I don't know. There's
Alexis Lafreniere.
Oh, of course, going to the
that's my final
roots.
That's my final answer.
I'm gonna go with Tim Hortons because I went to go see a play the other day called "Come From Away." Really good Broadway show. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. The story is about a small town in Newfoundland, Canada, the week of 9/11, and it was about how this town like took in like 8,000 flights or like people on flights that were diverted away from New York during 9/11, and it was a really compelling and sad and emotional story. But the one thing that will stick with me from the whole thing, didn't remember any songs or anything, but it's the opening scene is just the mayor. And he goes, "We start our story in Tim Hortons because as any good Canadian says, every story starts and ends at a Tim Hortons." And it was really freaking funny, and I couldn't like help it but like cry myself over it. So yeah, Tim Hortons is kind of the thing. Canada also gave us Justin Bieber, and I'm not very confident that that's necessarily a good thing.
It's a good thing. I left it out of I wasn't gonna say it, but it's a good
thing. It's a good thing over the last 5 years. I don't think it's a good thing when he released Baby. Certainly isn't the good thing.
I would say more recently, yeah, definitely, I agree with that. He turned out all right.
All right, but like also the look is kind of just like weird to me. Like I still see Justin Bieber as like a long hair, weird like.
Nah, the guy turned out all right. He's a good guy.
Now he like found drugs and he's just like, hey, I'm gonna shave my head and wear baggy ass clothes. And then again, that's kind of the style nowadays for most musical artists finding their own. Anyways, we're going to the RBC Canada this week. St. George's Country Club down in Toronto, Ontario, in the French Quarter of Canada. Let's get into a little bit of Course Confidential, shall we?
Let's do it.
So, John, usually I kind of give the reins to you on this one. This week, I've been so infatuated with the RBC Canada Open that I have said that I'm going to take the reins this week and kind of let you sort of ask me the questions in this sense. So, John, I will hand you the floor. Take the host seat for about 20 minutes, and let's talk about the conditions here this week.
Yeah, I'm just going to say what you say to me every time. Tell me about what to expect this week at the RBC Canadian Open, Steve.
So, par 70, very fun track. Only got to go 11 under to break 59. So, shout out to those of you who can do it. It's only a hair over 7,000 yards, so a very short track, very gettable track. When Rory won here back in 2019, it was a different course. I think this is very important to mention. The RBC Canadian Open changes courses every year. The last time we were at St. George's was back in 2010. So to really get a read on recent historical accuracy here is kind of challenging, because if I go back in time and I kind of tell you who won the 2010 RBC Canadian Open, you'd be like, who the hell's that? I believe it was Cal Pedersen and Dean Wilson. Have no idea who they are. The only other person that's relevant within this top 10 that I can see was Luke Donald, who obviously most people will know him, and Charlie Hoffman finished fourth with Matt Kuchar. So there are some names, and then of course now known deserter Kevin Na was also on said leaderboard. So back in 2010, it was a very different golf course. Did go through a redesign. Very, very similar to a lot of courses you see in the Northeast. Very, very ryegrass heavy. Has to maintain those cold conditions. Very similar to the track like we'll talk about TBC River Highlands coming up later on in June. But very similar to that in the sense of the way the course is maintained grass-wise. Very narrow fairways is going to be certainly a big thing, and I'll get into those keys to winning here at St. George's in a bit. But super narrow fairways, very penal rough. This golf course is one of the most heavily bunkered golf courses in all of Canada. Has 104 bunkers in the fairway and around the greens. Just about every single green is scattered with bunkers all around. Green size is like moderately small to moderate, so it isn't necessarily challenging, but it is a very much a second shot golf course according to head groundskeeper Ian McQueen, which by the way is an incredible name. So very penal rough. Every green is it's small, but the one feature about the greens that's very important is it's mogulled. So the way the Canadians described it as very typical of I feel a winter sport area like Canada. They said the greens look like moguls from like in the Olympics, like the slopes that some races go down on skis. So it's very undulated in that sense, very hilly and bumpy, and there isn't really a very, very solid flat ground in terms of landing area. So it might be a little erratic getting to the green. So it's very important to really dial in those irons and find that second shot from there. Sand saves here are huge. Native land for the green. So for the sand, so nothing's going to get raked. Kind of similar and a little gravelly to like we saw at Southern Hills. So some guys who played there will certainly be quite familiar with the conditions there. Big thing here, 2 par 5s. Both of them are under 540 yards. If you and I can reach them in 2, these guys most certainly can. So look for a lot of these par 5 scoring to be very big, which leads me into my keys this week. Number 1, this is one of the very few times, John, that we'll ever not say stroke gained approach is not the most important thing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's actually not this week. The most important thing is going to be good strokes gained in terms of the tee shot. So really, it's going to be fairways gained or strokes gained off the tee. You have to be incredibly accurate, very narrow fairways, very penal rough. You don't want to get in to those rough conditions, or else you'll be making a lot of bogeys, 4s, 5s all over the golf course. So strokes gained, fairways gained, everything really revolving the tee shot will be vital. Strokes gained approach, again, second shot golf course. You will most certainly need a first shot more important than the second, but second shot will be far important nonetheless. Opportunities gained. Scores here get very low. Like I said, 2 par 5s, both under 540. So there will be eagle opportunities abound. A few short par 4s to be able to drive. And the wind conditions will usually be going in your favor most of the days. So expect some very long drives, which is one of the reasons why Rory happened to win one of these events. A lot of these courses in Canada are very similar. So opportunities gained, birdie or better. Be able to hit your GIR, make your birdie, keep on going. We'll very probably see a score somewhere around 20 under par this week. And then one other major key here that I'll be looking at is 3-putt avoidance. Back in 2010, and again the course has changed over time. It's been 12 years, but the last time he played here in 2010, the Rbc Canadian Open ranked as the 3rd hardest golf course in terms of putts per round, meaning the number of putts that you take don't necessarily result in birdies or pars. They result specifically in bogeys. 3-putt avoidance is so big here. The only 2 courses that beat out the 2010 Rbc Canadian Open was Augusta National and Bay Hill. That was it. So 2 golf courses that are already challenging. St. George's will do an even bigger challenge with those mogulled greens. So those are really the keys that I'll be looking at. Fairways gained, strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach, opportunities gained, and 3-putt avoidance. And then, of course, strokes gained on par 5s, but everyone will be able to pretty much get there on the par 5.
Interesting. That was very, very well-rounded. Really just gave me a really good insight to what to expect this weekend at the Rbc Canadian Open. I feel like I can make some betting picks now based off of the insight that you just gave me and make a lot of money.
Well, so with that being said, before we even get into those picks, we'll talk about those in about 15 minutes. John, let's talk field. Let's see, guys, based on what I've given you, all the information that I've provided, give me some names immediately off the bat. Who stands out this week that will thrive at this golf course?
See, no, I can't do that because it's unfair. because now you're just going to take all the names that I say and you're going to use them for your picks. And that's
I've already got the picks in hand, cheating. Ready to go. So I will not be taking anything from you.
See, I'm going to take something from you, and it's all the knowledge that you just poured out to me and the rest of our community. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to beat you down on our beer money picks this weekend. But I'll give you a little something, Steve, just to make it even. I like guys this weekend. We usually talk about this, or I usually talk about how much I like all-around players, guys who don't have a weakness in their game, good putters and good tee to green players. I'm looking for those guys this week. Cameron Smith stands out to me. Sam Burns stands out to me. A lot of the guys towards the top stand out to me. But if you're looking for someone a little bit toward the I wouldn't say bottom, but Patrick Reed stands out to me. I'm looking at some guys, potentially Aaron Rye. I could see him playing well this weekend. It definitely gets Carlos Ortiz, maybe. Grayson Sigg. Yeah, it gets a little bit brutal the more you scroll down the odds, that's for sure. But yeah, those are some of the guys. But in all honesty, I'll take a guy who excels with driving accuracy, and then a really good short game player for sure. That's what I'm looking for this weekend.
This event is very interesting because, first of all, coming off of it, not necessarily a loaded field at the Memorial. Some guys are taking a break, considering next week is the U.S. Open, which, unbeknownst to most, seems kind of crazy to think that we're literally already at this point in the year that we have yet another major coming up in literally a week. So a lot of guys are taking a break. Some guys aren't necessarily using that tune-up week. They kind of want to focus in at Brookline and kind of get there, because the Canadian course isn't necessarily the same as Brookline. So you kind of want to have a different look. So unlike guys who, for example, played the Byron Nelson to get ready for the PGA, because you're in Texas, you're in Oklahoma, the heat's the same. You are going north of the border. The average temperature is going to be like 68 degrees, where at the country club it's going to be like 80. So it is very different in terms of weather, feel, course conditions, and so on. So with that being said, the course this field is very different from most. It is extremely top heavy, and what I mean by that is that 5 of the current top 10 players in the world will be playing this week: Scotty, Cam, JT, Rory, and Sam Burns. Obviously, Rory in his title defense. And while it's really strong, with the fact that LIV has taken away Dustin Johnson and Louis and some of the notable names that you usually will see every single week, including Kevin Na, there are only 9 top 25 players and only 12 players in the top 50. With that being said, the residual effect is you're going to be getting a lot of priority list extendees like Ben Crane and Richard Johnson will be playing this week, guys who you've never heard of. As well as the largest Canadian field, obviously, out of any event on tour. 21 Canadians will be playing this week, including Corey Connors, Mackenzie Hughes, and Adam Hadwin. A bunch of guys who we know, but many of them will be coming for sponsor exemptions, amateurs who are Canadian. Simply being Canadian, you qualify for the event, which is very nice. To give to our Canadian brethren and take some spots away from those Americans and international folk who want to take part. But Canadians deserve their due nonetheless. With that being said, I think the field, I can guarantee you right now, my beer money picks, probably nobody outside of the top 30 will be in my picks. That's a guarantee. Probably everyone will be in the top 20. I'm pretty sure. And I'm debating whether or not I'm going to put a Canadian in this list. I might. I don't really know yet. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the picks. Jason Sobel said it the best. When you have Harold Varner listed at 22-1, you're going to have to really dig deep to get good odds. But to be honest with you,
F Jason Sobel. F him. Him.
I just don't see a lot of like super deep picks here. I think the top guys in the world really are the ones who will dominate the field and play their absolute best going into Brookline. So I expect guys like Scotty and Cam and Rory and JT and Burnsy and the like to really dominate. So that's kind of the way I'm approaching it.
I may be seeing eye to eye with you. I may not be. Who knows?
Who knows? We'll find out. We'll find out literally around the corner. But coming up next, we're going to talk all about some beer money right here from the underground. It's getting the hole. Beer money coming up next. Don't go up. Welcome back. Final segment, Beer Money Time, brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer. Kenwood Beer, Philadelphia's #1 light beer. John, grab a Kenny. Let's get going. Before we actually start, I just got word. The Avalanche, speaking of Canadians, the Avalanche have just beaten the Edmonton Oilers to sweep them. Overtime game, winners 6-5, to advance to the Stanley Cup final, where they will face the winner of our New York Rangers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that'll be something that we'll be looking out for. Possibility of seeing the Rangers take on guys like Devon Toews and Kel McCarr, guys who I both watched in college. Devon Toews, a alumni of my college, Quinnipiac, and Kel McCarr played against Quinnipiac a few times with UMass Amherst. So pretty cool stuff coming out of the camp of the NHL. But John, it's beer money time, and of course, it's time to give those picks as I sweat out this massive bet right now with the Mets. John, give me your top 20 this week to start things off at St. George's and the Rbc Canadian Open.
My top 20 this weekend, Steve, is going to be Patrick Reed. Guy I mentioned earlier on in the show, obviously playing some better golf. Really liked what he did at Colonial. I believe he played 7th at Colonial. Had another good finish this weekend. His game is coming into form. He's striking the ball really, really well. And that's just a big bonus for me. Short game. I have the more trust in it than I do with just about any other player on tour. So yeah, I like his chances this week. Accurate off the tee, really accurate drive of the golf ball. That checks one of the boxes. His short game checks the other. And then if you're striking the ball better, I just don't see how I can't take him for a top 20 this weekend.
I am looking at Corey Connors this week, but I'm also looking largely at Shane Lowry, two guys who are both very, very similar in style and form as of late. Corey Connors has been a top 20 machine, as has Shane Lowry. I think he has like 8 top 25s in his last 8 events. So I'm kind of debating here, but I'm going to roll with Shane Lowry this week. He has played really good, really well in most certain rounds, in most events that he's played in the last, 2-3 months. A couple of notes here that go back to my keys to winning. He's 3rd in the field this week in stroke gained approach as of late. He's actually the #1 ranked player in the field this week in fairways gained in his last 6 rounds of golf. So he's been in pretty good form, as is Corey Connors. So I will roll with Shane Lowry for top 20.
Yeah, whatever. My top 10 this week. I just freaking forgot who it was going to be because you pissed me off. Oh, my top 10 is going to be Matt Fitzpatrick. Matthew Fitzpatrick has been playing out of his absolute mind. Crazy amount of top 20s this season, really having a quietly dominant season. Still searching for that win. Maybe he gets it this week, maybe he doesn't. My only reasoning is that he's just scorching hot right now, and he didn't just miss a cut, but other than that, he can't find a way to not find his way into the top 20 if he does. But not enough value there for a top 20, so I'm going to slide him up to the top 10 for me this week, and I'm going to feel pretty confident in that. I don't love that pick, to be quite honest with you, but there wasn't really anyone else who I was really, really excited about to pick at that top 10 position.
You know, you shouldn't get upset when you and I have a similar pick, because it's almost a compliment, because we're basically saying that, oh yeah, like this guy's very good. Don't give me that face. That ugly ass smug, you bastard. Top 10, I'm going with Sam Burns. There's no one better right now than Sam Burns at playing par 5s, and this course will be his, for lack of a better word, his bitch. 2 par 5s here, both under 540 yards. Sam Burns is the #1 ranked player in the field this week in strokes gained on par 5s. he will have eagles galore. His putting has been terrific as of late, and he actually has a really good track record here in the Northeast in terms of his putting performances. So I'm going to roll with Sam Burns for a top 10. John, who's your top 5?
My top 5 this week is going to be Cameron Smith. We haven't heard much from the dude. He's been playing some decent golf since the Masters. We haven't really had any eye-opening moments from Cameron Smith since his second place finish at the Masters. However, he's still in good form, and I think he's gonna rise towards the top this week, and I'm gonna feel pretty comfortable with him at this top 5 position. I've been using a similar strategy for top 5s in the top 10-ish area, and I feel like he kind of fits the mold of what I've been looking for. So yeah, he checks off a ton of boxes for me, and I think he's gonna show a little bit more of that dominance that we saw earlier on in the season this weekend. So I'll take Cameron Smith for a top 5.
The top 5 this week, I do love Cameron Smith. He's been quietly the best player in the world over the last month or so. He had a really good run at the Memorial, just couldn't get it together on Sunday. But early on, played incredibly well. In his major events, particularly, he's been really good. But even in those smaller events, he's managed to really show out and play his best. But for top 5 this week, I'm going to go with Scottie Scheffler. He leads the odds board, obviously. Why wouldn't he? He's the number 1 player in the world. But at the same time, I don't think this is a get right week for him. He's played. He missed the cut at Southern Hills. Hasn't played since. I do think he will, at the very least, play well enough to work his way up. He will most certainly be in the conversation on Sunday. But this is really a tune-up week as far as where he goes. I think he very well could win this week. But I'm going to kind of hold my horses a little bit and take him in for a top 5 instead. The correlated stats here, did that really work out for him? He's number 6 in the field in fairways gained. He's number 1. He's number 1 this week in strokes gained approach. Very clearly, he's been that good. He's also number 3 in the field in opportunities gained, birdies or better. So he will most certainly be finding the green, and he'll be putting for some dough this week. For our winner, John, as always, our gimme, your best bet. You and I both cashed in ours this past week. What do you think coming in to your gimme for the week?
I'm going to try and find the exact odds on it as I say it, but it is Shane Lowry for a top 30 this weekend. I'm really this is the one that I'm most excited about, I think. You pretty much hit the nail on the head when you were talking about this man before. Really I talked about Cameron Smith being like quietly dominant, and the same thing with Matthew Fitzpatrick. Shane Lowry's in a similar boat, and he's not getting as much attention as he should. And it's about time when he's gonna get a big win. And it might not be this week, it might be this week, but a top 30 is really, really, really safe for a play that I'm trying to find it now. I can't quite do it.
Yeah, the odds have been a little tough to find. I know right now he's currently minus 150 for a top 20, so probably in the 200
is he
area.
Really minus 150 for a top 20? I'd still take it. I'd still take him for a minus.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy bet for a top 20. You have to pay a little bit, but it's still.
Yeah, you will have to pay for a little bit.
Really,
I didn't realize that. I thought it would be. That's why I wanted to find the odds, but I thought it would be a little better. I'll still take it for a top 30. That's something I could feel confident in putting a decent sized amount of money on that.
Like I said, and like looking at the top 20 market, when Harold Varner is in the minus, as is Tyrrell Hatton, it's pretty hard to find really good value this week. So I'll this is sort of a past week. Really, it's kind of where the outright market and the top 5 is kind of where we're falling. For example, Scotty's plus 150 for a top 5, Cam's plus 240 for a top 5. My gimme this week is a additional top 20 pick, also in the minus in terms of being able to find his way there. Minus 110, Corey Connors for a top 20. It's a layup pick. He's the number 1 Canadian in the world for a very strong reason. He's been putting it really good, despite him being an absolutely atrocious putter in the past. His ball striking has been on point. His fairways gained, his accuracy has been the highlight of his game. I'm going to roll with Corey Connors for a top 20 this week. I think it's a pretty good play for the Canadian in his home country. We're finally here, John. The winning pick. Who is taking home the money at the RBC Canadian Open heading into the U.S. Open?
The guy who's taking home the money this weekend already has 3 wins on the season. He's been playing out of his damn mind. And I have a good feeling that he's going to take home his 4th victory of the season this weekend, and it's Sam Burns. Sam Burns is
burning the PGA. Yeah.
He is disrespected, and he is one of the best American players in the world right now. And he's going to be on a lot of Ryder Cup teams in the future. So watch out for this guy if you haven't already, which I'm sure most people have. But if for whatever reason you're living under a rock, Sam Burns, he is a good shot this week, and he's the one. If I had to put something on it, I'd put something on it. Really, really good tee to green player, and then you combine that with his putting ability and the rest of his short game, and it's tough. It's tough to find holes in his game.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I took him top 10 as a safe bet, but he will most certainly find his way to my outright market. A couple of guys before I give you my winning pick. He's someone that you mentioned. The outright market again this week is a little bit like dry, considering the fact that a lot of these guys are so high up on the board. But if you're looking for some more outright picks, I will most certainly be going with Sam Burns, Corey Connors. I might throw out a little bit on Harold Varner. Obviously, I threw some out a couple weeks ago, and it sort of bit me in the ass on Sunday. Rory, JT, they'll all be there. JT and Rory plus 950, Burns plus 1,400, and Connors plus 2,000, along with Varner at plus 3,300. But my winning. Oh, also a long shot play that I may have. Justin Rose plus 5,000. He sort of ghosted us the whole year. But his game kind of fits the course here, so we'll see what happens. But my winning pick at plus 1,100, Cameron Smith has been the quietest player this year, and there's a reason why he's the world number 3. Well, now world number 4, but was world number 3 last week. He deserves to be there, and he is by far the best player, tee to green, in my opinion, right now. His drive has been great. His short game has been phenomenal. His putting has been really the story. He has the most one putts on tour over his last 6 rounds of golf, only behind Max Homa, who obviously this past week had 99 putts on the week, which is the lowest in PGA Tour history. So congrats to Max Homa. But Cameron Smith has been a beast this season. I'm very happy that I could take him here with the winning pick at more than 10-1 odds, which is surprising for a guy as good as he is. I think a lot of this is kind of just juiced because of the fact that he is behind guys like Rory in terms of the defending champion and household name. But Cameron Smith, man, he's my guy for the win this week. John, final thoughts here before we get bouncing out of here. We'll give a nice little 15 seconds of free airtime. What do you got to say to the folks at home?
Oh, yeah. 15 seconds. I'm pumped for my Rangers. I maybe missed like 10 regular season games all year, and the hard work and dedication that I put in is finally paying off. We're taking it all the way to the Stanley Cup, and we're shocking the world, and we're making a name for ourselves. Other than that, I pured my irons all day. My short game was insane. I broke 40 on my second 9, and I shot an 81. So I'm feeling pretty happy right now. And I'm looking forward to getting some rest and getting back at it tomorrow. And then when Thursday rolls around, I'll be watching the RBC Canadian Open. So
for my 15 seconds here, I want to let you all know about a parlay that I'm currently sweating out right now. Hunter Green over 6.5 strikeouts. He finished with 8 for the Reds tonight. Connor McDavid to score. He scored in his loss to the Avalanche. The Mets scoring over 2 runs in the first inning plus 700, which was huge. They scored 3 against Blake Snell.
Wow.
And I'm currently sweating the Mets money line. They're up 4-1 right now through 5. If they win this game, I will take home a nice pretty penny. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, yeah?
As my betting account is almost down significantly. I took most of the money out of my account and put it towards the bank. But over the last 3 weeks, I've lost everything. So I've lost about $140 in about 2 weeks. So I gotta gain it back, and this parlay will most certainly do it for me. So that's my little 15 seconds here. Tomorrow morning, I'll either very happy or very depressed because the Mets blew it, or Edwin Diaz will finally get a save. With that being said, we are going to get going, of course, for Mavallia, I'm Stephen McAvoy. You're here already. You've been listening to us. Tell us what you think. Comment on all of our stuff. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Getting the Whole Pod. Search us on YouTube search us on YouTube, Underground Sports Philadelphia. You'll find us. And of course, shout out to our sponsors, Tomahawk Shades, Kenwood Beer. Usually we have pickup on. Didn't have enough time to get some prop bets in this week, but regardless, we love you nonetheless. Thank you, folks, for joining us. You've been listening to Getting the Hole from the Underground. Again, from Mavallia, I'm Stephen McAvoy. We'll see you next week at the